I am Jane Mays, the Clinical Education Manager here at Essity, and I have a tissue viability nurse contract at the Christie Hospital in Manchester. 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer. Many will suffer from continence-related issues and other side effects of treatment. This evening, we'll be tackling together the taboo surrounding male incontinence and support a large number of men who suffer in silence. It is my absolute pleasure to host the webinar tonight in conjunction with Prostate Cancer UK. Our presenters include Heather Groarke, Senior Specialist Nurse at Prostate Cancer UK. Hi, Heather. And also Mark Geddes, Tena Men Brand Manager at Essity. Hi, Mark. And we're really honoured to have with us Jonathon Hall, our patient advocate, who will tell the story around his prostate cancer journey. As I'm sure, tonight's presentation really will prompt some questions and some thinking in your minds. So please get busy in the chat, ask us the questions, and at the end, we'll put them to our speakers. So I'd like to now hand over to Heather. Heather, over to you.
Hi, Jane, and thank you so much for that lovely introduction. So yeah, my name is Heather, and I'm one of the specialist nurses for Prostate Cancer UK. And so I'm going to do a presentation today, and in it we're going to cover what is prostate cancer, some of the risk factors in prostate cancer, Prostate Cancer UK, the charity that I work for, and challenging the taboo around men's approaches to their health. A little on prostate cancer treatments and incontinence and managing incontinence, prostate cancer and the Tena Men partnership, and also a little on the support available from us, the nurses at Prostate Cancer UK. So I'm going to go first to a little on what is prostate cancer. So you can see in my slide, there is quite a few pictures there, or kind of a picture of the prostate, of the bladder, the urethra, and the penis. And so I'm going to talk about prostate cancer in general. So it is a cancer of the prostate gland. The gland is located just beneath the bladder, as in the slide, and in front of the rectum. And it encircles, like a donut, the first section of the urethra. So prostate cancer can be classified as localized when the disease is within the prostate. Locally advanced is where the disease is broken outside of the prostate gland. And advanced disease is where the disease has spread to another area of the body. It is one of the most common cancers in men, and there are about 48,000 new cases of prostate cancer diagnosed per year in the UK, and about 12,000 deaths. And with prostate cancer, there is no one exact cause. Urinary symptoms, as well as blood in the semen or urine, bone pain, erectile dysfunction, and fatigue, can be signs of advanced prostate cancer. However, in most cases of localized prostate cancer, men do not have symptoms. And if men do notice changes in the way that they wee, it's more likely due to an enlarged prostate or another health condition. This is why diagnosis can often come as a shock for many men and their families. Men will generally feel well, and as though there's nothing wrong when they're told the news of the disease. And you can imagine how distressing this is for so many men and so many families. Early diagnosis is key to ensuring men who have prostate cancer are diagnosed at a localized stage where curative treatment can be offered. We're going to move on to talk a little about risk and prostate cancer. So several risk factors for developing the disease have been identified, and knowing your risk is extremely important. Risk factors include being over 50, and your risk increases with age, a family history of prostate cancer, or being Black. All things are listed above on my slide. The PSA, or the prostate-specific antigen blood test, is a test carried out to help diagnose prostate cancer. And currently in the UK, there is no screening program for prostate cancer. But men do have the right to have a PSA blood test if they're over 50 and they've thought carefully about the advantages and disadvantages of the test. One of the major disadvantages of the PSA test is that it can be elevated for causes other than prostate cancer. And that can be infection or inflammation, or in a lot of cases, enlargement or enlarged prostate. Another test that the GP carries out in practices is often a digital rectal exam, or the finger up the bum test. And this test is to check for changes in the size or texture of the prostate. If the doctor finds, abnormalities on the digital rectal exam or a raised PSA blood test, or in some cases either or, further investigations will be needed. And this generally involves referral to urology department for an MRI scan and a biopsy. It's worth noting that the digital rectal exam isn't always helpful and it's not always carried out, because when doctors feel the prostate, they can't feel the entire prostate. They can only feel it on one side. So a little about risk there and a bit about the test for prostate cancer. And so we're going to move on to talk about Prostate Cancer UK and what we're doing to help with early diagnosis of prostate cancer. So you'll see lots of areas listed on my slide. So as one of the nurses working at Prostate Cancer UK, we help men make informed choices about prostate cancer. So our role involves spreading the word about who's at risk of prostate cancer, especially to those at higher risk. And we do this through thousands of conversations, podcasts, television appearances, newspaper articles, webinars, talks, and educational sessions like this one. So just recently, one of our specialist nurses, Sophie, took part in a Busting Myths webinar for our brand campaign, What on Earth is a Prostate? Our website, Prostate Cancer UK, has a huge array of health information, with much of it focusing on risk factors and general awareness. And our website also houses our risk checker. So a little on our risk checker. Our risk checker has been hugely successful and has over 500,000 hits so far. In February 2022, the NHS England and our charity joined forces to deliver a joint campaign promoting the online tool. Men are encouraged to use the 30-second risk checker to learn more about their level of risk and what action they can take. This includes getting checked by the GP if they're a higher risk. The risk checker also directs men to information and supportive service on our website, which can hopefully mean that if they do go to their GP, they're in a better position to make informed choices. You can see I have mentioned new research on my slide. So we know that research is vital to improving outcomes for those diagnosed with prostate cancer. And our charity ensure we invest in trials such as the Profile study. And this study is looking at genetics that influence the risk of prostate cancer and how this could improve the way we screen men for prostate cancer in the future and help more men get diagnosed and treated earlier. Our volunteers are of the utmost importance. We have a team of trained volunteers throughout the UK who go out and do awareness talks to groups and give information to men about what they need to know about prostate and prostate problems. Campaigns are a great way for us to spread our message. Recently, our summer brand campaign, What on Earth is a Prostate, was launched. And in a nutshell, this campaign is focused on challenging common myths and misconceptions that surround prostate cancer. So these myths and misconceptions can often stop men from making informed choices about their health. And the aim of the campaign is to raise awareness of these myths and of the key risk factors of prostate cancer and encourage men at risk to take our risk checker for partners, friends, and anyone else to share the risk checker with the men they love. Also, many famous faces and celebrity ambassadors help us spread the word about prostate cancer. Just recently, Colin McFarlane joined our summer brand campaign that I've mentioned, talking about his diagnosis and raising awareness for prostate cancer. So with that, we'll move on to a little on common treatments for prostate cancer. So I spoke earlier about prostate cancer, its prevalence and the different types of the disease. And listed on my slide are some of the common treatments for prostate cancer. But treatment will depend on the location of the disease, whether it's within the prostate, just outside it, or in another area of the body. And this is generally determined by MRI scans, biopsies, and additional scans such as bone or PET scans. Treatment will also depend on how aggressive the disease is. This is determined solely by biopsy, where the cancer is graded into a Gleason grade depending on how aggressive it is. The higher the Gleason, the more aggressive the disease. If the cancer is a low risk, slow growing cancer, treatment may not always be needed. And so active surveillance might be the best option. Active surveillance is a way of monitoring localized or early prostate cancer rather than treating it straight away. So men on active surveillance will have regular tests to check on the cancer, and they won't have any treatment unless the tests show that their cancer is growing or they themselves decide they want treatment. And doing this, they avoid or delay the side effect of treatment. If a man's cancer is a higher risk cancer or is growing, then they may need to have active treatment, such as those listed on the slide. Prostate cancer that is localized can be treated with the aim to cure the disease. And prostate cancer that is advanced can be treated but not cured. So many of the treatments for advanced prostate cancer can manage the disease for a number of months and even years. The specifics of a man's disease, meaning the disease location and how aggressive it is, as well as a man's comorbidities and personal choices, will determine what treatment is best for that man. So my next slide looks a little at incontinence and prostate cancer. So we can see on this slide that 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer, and some will experience incontinence as a side effect of treatment. 1 in 2 men who have a radical prostatectomy will experience urinary incontinence. And trial data varies a little on outcome, but around 10% of men have reported experienced some form of bowel incontinence 6 years after radiotherapy treatment. The figures are, quite alarming. So we're going to move on to talk a little about normal urinary function and what can go wrong with urinary function. It'll help us understand a little bit more about what happens with prostate cancer and when there are issues with urinary function. So the urinary tract includes 2 sets of muscles that work together as a sphincter, closing off the urethra to keep urine inside the bladder between your trips to the toilet. The internal sphincter muscle of the bladder and neck and urethra stay closed when your brain signals them to urinate. Until your brain signals them to urinate, sorry. The external sphincter muscle around the internal sphincter muscle provides extra pressure to keep the urethra closed. And so you can consciously squeeze the external sphincter muscle and the pelvic floor muscles to keep urine from leaking out. In order to urinate, your brain signals your sphincters to relax. And then it signals the muscular bladder wall to tighten, squeeze urine out of the urethra and out of the bladder. And this is all well and good until there is an issue. And some of the issues are listed on my slide. Some include stress incontinence. So this is when you leak urine out of your bladder. When your bladder is put under extra sudden pressure, for example, when you cough or sneeze or laugh. Urge incontinence is when the urine leaks as you feel a sudden intense urge to pee, or soon afterwards. And overflow incontinence is when you are unable to fully empty your bladder, which causes frequent leaking. Finally, total incontinence is when your bladder cannot store any urine at all, which causes you to pass urine constantly or have frequent leaking. So it seems right now to move on to talk a little about kind of common treatments in prostate cancer and how side effects like incontinence can be an issue for those treatments. So I'm going to focus on incontinence following a radical prostatectomy, as it probably has the greatest impact. So urinary incontinence and sexual dysfunction are the most commonly seen side effect of prostate removal surgery. When the surgeon removes the prostate, they also remove some of the internal bladder neck sphincter that I mentioned, that opens and closes to let urine out. The muscles and urethra may also be damaged during surgery. This in turn can lead to stress incontinence, where men notice the leakage when they cough, sneeze, or make sudden movements. Fortunately, the outer external sphincter is usually not affected and can be strengthened with targeted training like pelvic floor exercises or pelvic floor training. Men will generally have a catheter inserted post-surgery, and following removal, they may notice that they have reduced urinary control. In the majority of cases, men will see improvements in their continence within weeks to early months, with many reporting full return of urinary function between 3 and 7 months. Most men will mention nighttime dryness as the first milestone. In some instances, men, however, do not regain urinary function, and they need further referral to male pelvic health physiotherapy services, or in some instances, as a final resort, they can be referred on to surgery for artificial sphincter insertion or urinary slings. So moving on to a little on radiotherapy. So using radiation to treat the prostate can sometimes cause damage to the nerves and the muscle of the bladder, the urethra, and the sphincter, which control the passage of urine from the bladder. It can also reduce bladder capacity. And this can result in urinary incontinence, but this is less common in radiotherapy than in surgery. So in most cases, urinary symptoms following radiotherapy or brachytherapy are likely to be symptoms of radiation cystitis, things like frequency or urgency and maybe pain with urination. Finally, hormone therapy. So research has highlighted that men on long-term hormone therapy can experience a weakened pelvic floor, and this can in turn affect their urinary function. So we'll move on to chat a little about the management strategies that can help with this. So we have a lot of information on pelvic floor exercises on our website. As nurses, we can talk men through what to do on the phone to ensure that they're reaching the correct muscles. We also include this information in our surgery support packs. Having an absorbent pad can make the world of difference for men. So many men we speak to mention the security they feel when wearing pads, Tena pads that are discreet, comfortable and fit well to the body. A urinary sheath is a condom-like covering which fits over the penis and has an outlet tube, and it connects to a drainage bag that collects urine until it can be conveniently emptied. Some men prefer to use these. Bladder retraining is another option, another management strategy, and it's a therapy to help men or people learn to hold on to more urine in their bladder so that they need fewer visits to the toilet. Another management strategy, and one we often mention first, is lifestyle changes. So they include adjusting fluid intake to ensure you're having enough fluid, avoiding caffeine, alcohol and fizzy drinks, managing your weight and preventing constipation. All of those things can cause urinary symptoms. As well as that, there are medications to help relax the muscles in the urinary tract and help with frequency. And finally, referral for surgery, as I mentioned earlier. So Prostate Cancer UK have some key strategies they carry out to help men with incontinence. And we're just going to talk a little about those strategies. So firstly, our surgery support packs. These packs prepare men for surgery and post-operative continence issues. We send out about 4,000 packs per year, and they include a fact sheet on surgery and pelvic floor exercises, as well as the supply of men incontinence pads, wet wipes, and disposable bags. And so we know from speaking with men that trying to navigate incontinence and incontinence products can be very daunting. The pack is a helpful start to what products are available and what they may want to purchase for themselves. Our nurse helpline, our email service, live chat, and WhatsApp offer a safe space to talk about urinary issues and suitable management strategies to help. We support men and their friends and family who are going through diagnosis, treatment, or side effects of treatment on our anonymous service. Tena men have joined forces with Prostate Cancer UK. So many men with incontinence have told us about the anxiety and challenges they face when they're out in public and need to dispose of their incontinence pads. They've told us about how it's affected both their mental and physical health and made them leave homeless. It shouldn't be this way, and so this led to our Boys Need Bins campaign. Together we can create a world where men's life are not limited by incontinence. Tena also joined the Boys Need Bins campaign this year and helped us communicate to their database of 300,000 men. The Boys Need Bins campaign helped to generate more than 1,800 signatures to MPs, calling on them to take action to improve the quality of provisions of male sanitary bins to help men with male urinary incontinence. So we want every public toilet and business across the UK to put incontinence bins in their men's toilet, so men can dispose of incontinence pads, stoma products and other hygiene waste easily, safely and with dignity. And while we're on the topic of Tena men, so Tena is a brand of Essity PLC, and Tena men manufacture pads and pants specifically designed for men who experience urinary leakage. As I mentioned earlier, research suggests that 50% of men experience urinary leakage after prostate cancer surgery, and as many as 10% of men mention bowel incontinence at 6 years post-radiotherapy. Our partnership with Tena men launched in 2019, and we've been working with them on and off since then. In February 2023, Tena committed 75,000 based on 10p per sales of their product, following a 6-week campaign. The campaign ran across all major supermarkets and pharmacies where Tena products are stocked. The campaign was complemented with a bespoke campaign page, featured a partnership video, and health information, as well as 4 stories from our supporters. This extremely generous donation will help towards running our services and is vital to support ongoing research into prostate cancer. Tena have also donated 10,000 Tena Men products to be included in our surgery support pack. This gift has helped us save almost £26,000. So thank you to Tena. And finally, a little on our services. So as I say, I'm one of the nurses that work for the Prostate Cancer UK. And our telephone lines are open 9 to 5, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And on a Wednesday, we're open 10 to 5. We also have email and live chat and WhatsApp service. We welcome anyone to call us, whether they're going through diagnosis, treatment, concerned about their risk, or their family, partners of somebody who is going through prostate cancer. We can hopefully offer support and information to those men and family and friends associated with them. And with that, I'm going to hand back over to Jane. I think she's going to take from here.
Heather, thank you so much. I've learned so much about the charity and about the great work that you do, Heather. And do you know, I've got so many questions, Heather, that I want to ask you at the end. So I don't think I'm going to give anybody else a run with the questions that they're going to ask. But let's see. Thanks ever so much. And we'll chat to you shortly in our live question and answer session, if that's all right. So I'd like to hand over now to Mark. Mark obviously is our Tena Men brand manager, and he's going to build on a little bit what Heather's already explored about the relationship. So thank you, Mark.
No worries. Thanks very much, Jane and Heather, for that really insightful presentation. So here at Tena, we understand that supporting men with incontinence starts with destigmatizing the condition. We know that many men don't seek the support they need if they're experiencing incontinence. And therefore, we need to help men everywhere feel more comfortable in their changing bodies. We'll do everything we can to help men take steps to keep control of their incontinence. We emotionally encourage this by offering straight-talking positive advice, and we physically support them with our range of Tena Men products. We've joined forces with Prostate Cancer UK, as Heather mentioned, to help tackle the taboo of male urinary incontinence, and also support the increasing number of men dealing with the condition as a result of prostate cancer. Through the partnership, we aim to empower men to feel in control of their changing bodies, give them information about incontinence so they can make informed choices, and give them the confidence to come forward and ask for support. This year, we've been delivering our largest and most comprehensive multi-layer campaign, reaching over 5 million people. We've been advertising during key sporting events, such as the Six Nations and key Premier League games, as well as featuring on key podcasts and radio shows to help normalise the conversation. This is something that we're going to continue for the rest of the year with the help of our partner, Prostate Cancer UK. Through our communications, we not only want to speak to the functional benefits of purpose-made products, we want to normalise the conversation of male incontinence and make it easier for people to feel comfortable discussing it. And through our social campaigns, we aim to drive education and empathy, allowing others to relate and encourage them to seek help. And although Tena Men products are just one support element in the multimodal approach to men experiencing incontinence, our products are designed with discretion and security in mind, so men feel confident doing what they enjoy in life without worrying about urinary leakage. Whether the individuals you see are experiencing light leaks or heavy surges, we have the right product for them, from protective pads designed for the anatomy of men to higher absorbent male underwear. And we've also launched a new innovation to the market of washable boxer shorts. These have gone into the retail market to support men with light leaks. And we also provide a variety of support tools to healthcare professionals like yourself, from our online product selector tool, conversation guides, as well as educational content and promotional material for use in a pharmacy environment. We know that some men find it difficult to talk about incontinence, which is why we continue to strive to normalise male incontinence by talking about it in a direct yet human way. And this is really so men feel more comfortable and have more confidence to walk through your door and to help get the support that they need. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Mark. It's a great partnership, isn't it? Growing all the time and expanding, and working together with Prostate UK. It's unbelievable. So thank you very much. We'll join at the end to answer some of the questions that are coming through. So, like I said at the beginning, we feel so lucky to have Jonathon Hall with us. A patient advocate. This is a real opportunity for us to really understand the story. Jonathon, I've been a nurse for 30 years. I've joined patients' journeys when they've been on their life-changing journeys. I've been in and out of the life journey, but we never really get this opportunity, or rarely get this opportunity, to hear your true story around sort of your experiences, especially around prostate cancer. So thank you so much for sharing your journey, and I'd like to hand over to you now to present.
Thank you, Jane. Good evening. My name is Jonathon Hall, and I'm a prostate cancer survivor. A line lifted from Alcoholics Anonymous meeting notes, but that's where the similarities end. There's nothing quite like this group for us prostate cancer sufferers, but more about that later. I'm here as a patient advocate, a patient who must first take time to thank the NHS, a deeply profound gratitude for getting me to where I am now, relatively leak-free and noisy, sounding a bit like my old sports car, advocate for early testing and diagnosis, for the care and attention given to me, and for those who have heard and have put bins in boys' loos. I've been busy. I've been on Radio 4 with Evan Davis, discussing a small part of the consequences of my radical surgery to remove my prostate, to BBC News on the same subject, to The Guardian, where I talked about male incontinence with Lewis Moody, an England and Leicester rugby player. Wrong club, but it spurred me on to have a chat with Northampton Rugby Club, Leicester's arch rivals, and my club, which is leading them to explore how they might take up the challenge of spreading the prostate cancer word, and specifically bins for boys. I was also teed up for a nationwide launch of the campaign for bins for boys. I had a photographer follow me around for a couple of days, documenting my life, what makes me tick, what I'm doing whilst living with my cancer, and importantly, how, in general, my life is back on track, as normal as it can be, which for me is quite something. Unusual, but something. For a moment, I felt quite special. For a moment, it seemed to make the whole cancer journey worthwhile. Yes, I wanted my 15 minutes of fame, but in my adolescent mind, it was behind a guitar, a microphone, on stage, on my horse. Not all at the same time, otherwise we're looking at Gene Autry. But it was some solace for my journey that I've been on and where I am now. We were about to go nationwide. But that was derailed by the Scots. Not the nation, but specifically their leader, who decided to stand down amidst the financial news surrounding the party. At the time of writing, that was Nicola Sturgeon. If UK politics of late are anything to go by, there may be others who followed. I was temporarily stood down. A lot of lovely sports cars of me, pictures of me leaning casually against my classic sports car at Goodwood in the pits, to me playing my guitar in my studio, to me talking nonchalantly across the bar of a golf club I belong to, but haven't swung a club in anger in over 12 years, with 3 women whispering beside me, trying to work out just who the hell I was. As an aside on that point, I was once at Goodwood, one of those June Friday evenings where they host major DJ events. I just happened to know Pete Tong, who was playing that night, through my eldest daughter, who lives in Ibiza, and me and my wife, family, eldest daughter, and twin 9-year-old girls were invited on stage to look down at the heaving, thrill-seeking audience, hanging on to his every mix. Just like now, but without the music. Then someone came up to me and started chatting about classic car racing and talked to me as if I knew him. I tried a few fail-safe questions, animated laughter, nodding, but no, I didn't know him, but still he persisted. Can we have a selfie, he asked. We had one, and all I could hear was Pete Tong's music and my girls all laughing at me. Satisfied with his selfie, he left, and as he went, he clapped me warmly on the back and said, "Loved your last movie, mate," and left. Once my lot had stopped laughing, the only person at the time we could think of was dead. Anyway, I digress. Back to my speech. So back to where I am and why I'm here. I was living a life to the full, 10-year-old twin girls, running an ad agency and looking set for my 60th birthday and what to do to celebrate that. It was 6 months away and needed preparing for, and I do like a party. 2 things happened, both health related and both beginning with the letter C, COVID and cancer. As it turned out, COVID was a bit of a side issue. Life took on a very new meaning, and it all started with a little prick. An innocuous blood test, age-related but simple and worry-free. I timed it just before I went to stay in a friend's vineyard in Saint-Tropez, where I was concerned that reading would show rosé and lots of it. What came back to me in the post-holiday, blissed out, hungover, sleep-deprived moment was a call from the hospital A consultant whose name I will never remember, such was the message. He said my PSA level was high, 7 in fact. So now I'm of the Torval and Dean generation, so 6.9, 6.9. The higher the better. Is that good? I inquired joyfully. Turned out it wasn't. The Gleason score was there to tell them and to me there may be a problem. And could I come in for a chat? At this juncture, it's called to my wife's aunt, who held the chair at Aberdeen University, specialising in tropical diseases. I was told that this score was indicative and wouldn't tell much. In fact, there were medical opinion that these readings could cause more alarm than was necessary. And so the journey began. A visit to see a lovely consultant, a Mr. Hall, an easy name to remember. His colleague, not so, although it was her who inserted the first of many digits and other things at my backside to confirm a few things. Firstly, it confirmed my backside was an exit, not an entrance, but with hindsight, it became a two-way street very quickly. Second, it told her that 2 quartiles needed further inspection, although, as I was glad to hear, not in quite the same invasive way. Or so I thought. One word, biopsy. I never saw Mr. Hall again, and I've often, sometimes wonder why the prefix Mr. To me, it's bailiffs and VAT officers, and after such an inappropriate meeting, intimate meeting, surely first names would be more appropriate. Call me old-fashioned. What followed was a flurry of Joe 90 scans and radioactive drinks. And finally, at this junction, as I mentioned, the biopsy. Every prostate cancer person I've met, and there have been a few, you see the eyes mist over. Possibly the most invasive and uncomfortable part of the journey, conducted with your feet in stirrups, up in the air whilst holding your tackle to one side, and it feels like pretty much everything within arm's reach is inserted. I tried to emote with my steel-wielding operative, weekly commenting on the fact that you girls go through this, but my heart wasn't in it, unlike most of the contents of the surgery in me. I eyed up the umbrella in the corner, just in case. I had scans where I had to detail every fall I'd had, every knock, tall order, as I was fairly active with scant regard to any knocks I might gather along the way, and I didn't know about the shadows. I do now. Contextually very scary. I was given radioactive injections that coursed through my veins, a cold, unseen and yet all-seeing presence. I was informed I couldn't go near small children or pregnant mothers for 12 hours, which meant I couldn't see my girls. The exclusion zone was just not worth it. So, as I left the hospital, I held open the door and a pregnant woman and her toddler wandered by. This was going to be difficult. Then the results are in. Yes, I had prostate cancer, but not to worry, said Mr. X. We can treat this and we can cure you. My wife breathed out. A breath that reminded me it was not just me going on this frankly quite terrifying journey. I'm mindful of that. Whenever I'm in conversation, it's vital that partners concerned are dealt with too. The options I'm sure you're more aware of put to me. The cancer cure menu topped with, you're lucky. It's the best one to have as it's localized. Offered with it's slow growth and we've called it assurances. Scanning the menu in my own time, I was phoned for my thoughts. Luckily, I have a fair few medical friends, not the type in the pub, but real ones. Portsmouth was considered one of the best hospitals for my cancer. A very old friend's son, who was a UCL, and on the team responsible for developing the Da Vinci robotic surgery, which is the option I decided to take. I was taken at that point by how the NHS constructed a team based around me and my particular issues. I do love to be talked about. The brachio option wasn't an option. I have my girls and it just couldn't happen. I needed them close to me at this time. And anyway, when I chose the Da Vinci, they said it was a good choice. You're young and fit, good choice. I'm also sufficiently vain to take that compliment. Roll on the day, I kissed and said goodbye to the girls. I went and got dressed for the op. I even think I took a photo of my tummy just to remind me, which reminds me I can't find that photo. I met the anaesthetist. He was exactly what I'd expected, and I've known a few in my life, and he was reassuring and casually knowledgeable when it came to administering the fun stuff. I looked at the robot, a tin 5-legged spider dangling from above me, and the operator's end of the device, which reminded me of Space Invaders circa 1979. Reassuring. However, it wasn't going to matter. The pre-med had kicked in. I was very chatty and relaxed, just as I zoned out. What seemed like a minute later, and I'm trying to talk to someone in a gown and a mask, sounded like a drunk desperately trying to protest his sobriety and failing. 3.5 hours had flown by, and I had a bag velcroed to my leg and a nice tube coming out of my slightly bemused willy. The next few hours went by in a bit of a haze, but then I was tested and let go. 24 hours after my ordeal, with a bag of notes, pads, tubes, and the instructions, plus drugs. The surgeon phoned my wife and said he was very pleased with the operation, and they managed to save most of the nerves. Most. Leaky me returned home. We also had a new puppy, and so unexplained wet patches around the house could be easily explained, although thankfully this didn't happen. And here I am. I've had my surgery of choice, the Da Vinci surgical system. Apparently the standard for laparoscopic prostatectomy, I'll say that one day perfectly, which affords the surgeon a clean specimen, I'm guessing that's me, to perform unilateral or bilateral neurovascular bundle sparing without oncological recurrence risk to preserve erectile and continence functions, key to neurosafe trials. Well, I can't lay claim to any of that. As I said, an old friend's son was instrumental in that. And as a pirate and guitar god in my head, I was glad that his name was Jack Daniel. Aside from my family connections, I've never had the opportunity to thank the NHS, its wonderfully chaotic staff. So I must thank them now for everything, for why I'm here now with apparently another 30 years ahead of me, something which gladdens the heart of my family, but not my pensions provider. Aside from a long life, the surgery and treatment had its side effects, primarily 3 little alliterative words: impotence, infertility, and incontinence. That's a penile reduction by some 2 centimeters. I've tried to reconcile that fact, so an analogy. I remember, well, I don't really, but I told my first car journey was in my father's Aston Martin DB4, a rare car that when I saw a genuine barn find DB4 at Aston Martin's Works Christmas party a few years ago, I was cheerfully told it was worth £1 million, all battered, unused, and covered in the obligatory bird poo. And another £1 million spent on it would bring it up to £2.5 million, all gleaming and new. My barn find, however, is a 1972 British Leyland Mini 1000 with a flat battery and 3 flat tyres. Not really worthy of a conversation, which might explain why men don't talk about this. And we must, although for now I'll only focus on the incontinence. My surgery went well. They got rid of most of my prostate, although through a hole in my belly button, which now looks like an angry exclamation mark or a warning sign found on mountain roads. Most. There was an apex of prostate they didn't dare remove in case the jumbled piles of nerves they had skillfully worked around became compromised. In my head, I have spaghetti junction as a visual metaphor. So back to the point. One slip, and I'd be in very different conversation with you right now. My PSA, diagnosed as undetectable post-op, started to rise again, doubling every couple of weeks. The hope was that this wasn't going to happen. Well, it was just that, a hope. Next stop, radiotherapy. My torso was scanned and mapped, looked at how to pinpoint radiotherapy would destroy the impertinent cancer. The scans went well, including a new procedure that promised pinpoint accuracy. What didn't happen was the only hiccup in the journey. The scan was private. They lost the scan. Meanwhile, my PSA was doubling. Now, as an ad man, I'm pretty good at chasing down clients, making sure they do what they say they should when they should. I mean, who could possibly do a shoot without the models actually having been booked, or a car ride where the car hadn't been supplied? I persist, and in so doing, the records were rediscovered, somewhere between Southampton and Nottingham, maybe on the Aston Expressway. The trouble was, on reviewing them, they thought that they'd seen a lymph node doing something it ought not to be doing. In my mind, the cancer had spread, just what we were looking to avoid, the worst case scenario. I honestly can't remember much about this. Mind you, my chemically induced menopause with radiotherapy mixer, I can't remember much these days. I carry a notebook with half the conversation scribbled down and spend days trying to remember just what it was all about. For those of you who've read John Diamond's book C, Because Cowards Get Cancer Too, you know where this goes. Of course, for my book on the subject, I've got to come up with an equally witty and pertinent title, so any thoughts after today would be welcome. At this juncture, another thing happened on my way. Not long after my surgery, I attended an exhibition in Islington, North London, one on next generation car fuels. Heady stuff, I know, but I decided to drive. COVID was still making itself known, and I was not relishing the thought of going on public transport, sharing the confined trains and then tube with that pesky and, in my mind, insignificant virus. So I drove. I hadn't driven in London for years, who in their right mind would, but I did remember to avoid the congestion zone on my migration to Islington. The fact that I remembered was surprising, given that I was forgetting why I walked into a room at that point, due to the heady cocktails of menopause-inducing drugs and radiotherapy. I felt I needed to do this, for my sanity as much as anything else. It was a good day, I think. I got home in one piece, having successfully navigated my way back around the congestion zone, except it wasn't. I was completely unaware of the ULEV zones, and this passed me by completely. I had more important things to worry about. A letter arrived advising me of a fine for not paying the ULEV charge. I challenged this, using my condition as my reason for not having even noticed the new zone. I landed up at a tribunal where I stated my story, my cancerous brain fog trawl back to health. The woman leading the tribunal said, and I'll never forget this, in all her years she had never done anything like this, but was advised that the fine be quashed and that I just pay the fee for the day. This took months to happen, consumed my day, my indignant day, fighting this for cents, and it had prevailed. Of course, I took copious notes, as I couldn't remember much, and it all paid off. I did not want my cancer suffering to define who I am, and most importantly, not to debilitate me any more than necessary. I'd won. I cried tears of relief. I posted the sweet victory. How short-lived. TfL, this all-seeing monolith of unthinking, process-driven vacuous space, decided the findings didn't suit their narrative and dismissed the tribunal's findings and recommendations. I had to pay the fine. This is just another of the unexpected consequences of my journey. Everyone else, and I mean everyone else, has been so wonderful and supportive, but not TfL. One grudge I do bear, but I do feel better having shared it just now, some small injustice. So, back to little bastard lymph node. Another team were dispatched to have a look, evaluate and do whatever they do. I just sat there and quietly dissolved. Not in front of my family, they'd just seen enough. And not with the booze because, well, I leak, and quietly, smiling, this would be all right. My mother and father-in-law had just died, and his pet dog. We didn't need another just yet. It would be all right, wouldn't it? I'd love to leave you with a cliffhanger, but just as evidence here is I'm here now. I'm okay. The little light was nothing. They mapped the bit that needed to be dealt with, and now we're off to the races. Well, Portsmouth any day, every day for 3 months. Every day, that is, aside for weekends and Christmas, because, as we all know, cancer needs a break too. Wishing Christmas cheer to a small gathering of fellow sufferers whilst making sure I'm hydrated and not full of wind, half full of piss and wind and not wind, in essence, is a delicate balance undertaken in the glow of the light that only hospitals can emit, with hospital radio churning out Noddy bloody holder. Sorry, Noddy, but Christmas was many things, and your cheery, throaty exultations were not helping. Muffled good wishes through masks and a table full of obligatory quality street there was somewhat surreal. All whilst trying to balance the needs to have a pee or fart or both, with the exacting requirements of the procedure. Oh yes, I was tattooed as well. Not the jaunty sailor's anchor, I was in Portsmouth after all, but 3 little dots that will forever remind me that some sort of triangulation point has been enacted over my battered torso. And all the way through this, I was getting fit to fight cancer, swimming and running, swimming in the December sea, running across its windswept shores. And that helped. There have been a few swerves on the journey to recover, a minor hernia operation to recover from the surgery, and a deviated septum operation later, and I still have to prepare for my day in a way I never envisaged I would. Me, I leak. I leak when I find something funny, when I stand up too quickly, when I trampoline, which is hardly ever, when I go for a run, and when I drink. I've had Madonna-like cones strapped to my chest to make sure I don't go breasts, and I'm on a 2-year chemically induced menopause. My girlfriends think it's hilarious. Me, not so much, although I do like being on the sisterhood, but that is really where it ends. But when I go to the loo in public, where do I dump my soil pad? There are no facilities for men to do this. I must remind myself, however, that I am at the more gentle end of the spectrum when it comes to disposing of soil pads. I have to plan my day out on with the Great British Toilet Map or P-Place on my phone, so a new app to download. Great, but what do I do with my pad? I usually wrap it in the packaging, where's it gone, of a new pad and try to find a bin. But it's not a great experience. The dexterity required to stuff a full pad into a small plastic sheath is frustrating and not pleasant. So boys need bins. A slogan and a logo and a meaning that will be broadcast by me, my colleagues, by Prostate Cancer UK, by my ad agency friends willing to help broadcast the message that we boys need bins. Unashamedly, I've asked my advertising friends to help here, pro bono, and they've come to my aid. And all too soon, I guess. Kemosabe in London are developing a logo to help us boys find loos with bins. So I'm not taking the piss here, especially in a plastic bag to find a bin, somewhere, anywhere. But I am dedicated to tearing the lid off this area, and you will no doubt be hearing more from me. And to date, I've been quite vocal. I don't spare the blushes, because this is too important to me, to allow us all who suffer in silence with Heath Robinson's solutions to a problem easily fixed. As I said, I've been on Radio 4, interviewed by Evan Davis, BBC News with a camera crew in my garden. Actual, not metaphorical. I've been filmed by the USA version of the Prostate Cancer About My Journey, interviewed by Gina Carruthers, their amazing CEO. And hopefully we'll be attending events like these over there. Such is my belief that this particular bully in this particular playground needs to be belittled. And what better way to start with Boys Need Bins? Since I wrote this, I've been shown the USA Prostate Cancer Patient Voice website and a little film of my journey embedded within. And I believe there'll be a link shown at the end of this, which will give you an idea of what I've been going through. My media training gave me the excellent Alison Bell, who ran all things media and PR for the Mayor of London, advising me how to do these things. No glasses, good lighting behind the camera, plain shirt, nothing in the background to distract from the message. I heard lights and glasses. The background is what's part of helps me through this nightmare. The Guardian interviewed me recently, and alongside Lewis Lewley, the Leicester player who suffered from male incontinence, that and playing for Leicester. As I said, I'm a third generation Northants man. I asked for his thoughts, and he came back with, thanks for touching base on this and the brilliant work you're doing to highlight male inconvenience. Sadly, it's not something I could commit to, but full diary, I hope it goes well and we'll speak together soon. Now, I'm not sure he meant to write inconvenience, but I chuckled over the vision of a large Leicester rugby player typing, but he's right, it is an inconvenience too, and it shouldn't be. Boys need bins. Is this too much to ask for? In the meantime, I'd like to thank you for listening to me, a cancer sufferer, in a club no one wants to join. God, I need a drink. Thank you. The end.
Jonathan, I'm sure that I am just saying what everybody is thinking out there. Thank you so much for bravely sharing your journey. There's lots of comments coming in the chat. You know, nurses out there like myself, we don't get this opportunity to listen to the true story, the emotion, the impact, and also the effect it's had on your family. So we're extremely grateful to you, and we know how brave you've been, and everybody out there is sending you some real messages of support. So thank you. I'd like to move on now, if that's okay with you, just to some questions. You know, there's lots of questions coming in. There's a few for you. I was going to start with those, but I'll give you a minute to compose yourself. Yeah, we did talk about, actually, didn't we, Jonathan, before the call, that we would have to give you an opportunity on those guitars behind you, but maybe we'll save that for another time, hey? But yeah, we'll come back to you, but thank you. Heather, we'll go to you first. There's lots of questions, and you know, can you give us any more details about the symptoms that a man may experience with prostate cancer? I know Jonathan shared a lot, but is there any more that jumped to your mind, having listened to Jonathan's story, that may get missed?
Yeah, I mean, kind of as I mentioned earlier, most men with early prostate cancer won't have signs and symptoms, and that's why it's so important for men to know about their risk. And it's generally because of the way that the cancer grows. So generally, cancer will grow on the outside of the prostate. And so it's when cancer grows near the urethra and presses against the urethra that causes changes in the way that men wee. But if it grows on the outer part, often those changes don't happen. And so there isn't signs and symptoms like changes in wee. But there are some, and it would be wrong for me to say that if anybody does experience changes in the way that they urinate, that they shouldn't speak to a GP. So that would include things like difficulty to start to wee, or a weak flow, a feeling that a bladder hasn't emptied fully, dribbling urine, frequency of urination, particularly at night, or sometimes a need to kind of urinate suddenly, you know. But prostate cancer can have symptoms if the cancer has broken outside of the body or outside of the prostate, and so it has become advanced. So that would be things like back pain, hip pain, possibly issues with getting erections or blood in the semen, blood in the urine, or unexplained weight loss. But the most thing is that if you have any of these symptoms, they can also be related to other health issues, but it would be a good idea for them to speak to their GP about any symptoms that they have, so they can make sure they're getting the right treatment that they need.
That's brilliant. And you know what, I know we spoke before about the PSA, Heather. So obviously with regards to symptoms and things and pushing for that PSA, is this something that men should be encouraged to request and ask for a PSA?
So it's difficult with the PSA because the PSA test is a test used to determine a risk with the prostate. And so men who have a PSA test may have an elevated PSA test, but it may not be related to prostate cancer. And so how it kind of works is that men should be aware of the advantages and disadvantages of the PSA test. And then they can go ahead and make an informed decision about whether they want to have a PSA test at their GP practice. Because as of now, there is no screening, program for prostate cancer within the UK. And so GPs are not going to automatically call someone up to have that test. Men need to be more aware of what that test means and then make an informed decision about what's best for them.
Absolutely. We need our men out there to be really proactive about their own health and well-being, don't they? And, definitely support that thinking. Thank you, Heather. Mark, we've got a question for yourself, really. Can you give us any more information about the Tena Men range and, what the assortment is like to support these men?
Yeah, certainly. So much like I said in the presentation, we do have a variety of products available to support men who are experiencing incontinence. So when it comes to the initial stage, we do have our incontinence pads or shields and protectors, as we call them, and they come in 4 different levels. So they come from the extra light level all the way through to a more moderate level. These products are a physical pad that has a peelable and adhesive backing onto them, so they can stick into men's underwear to ensure that they are fixed in place and don't move around. And they are a disposable product by nature. One thing that we do find as well is that some men, when experiencing incontinence for the first time, do find it quite an alien concept to put a pad into their underwear. Whereas with a lot of female consumers who have gone through period care products, putting that product into their underwear can be more commonplace. Actually, for a lot of men, they do find it quite an alien concept. So what we do also have, and what we see a lot of men actually use for the first time, is incontinence pants. And these do, by the creation of them, do support with a high level of absorbency. But what you may find is that a lot of men do find it more comfortable using these as a product to initially start them. So these come also in 3 absorbency levels. So they come from what is described as a normal absorbency, what we describe it as, all the way through to a plus absorbency, and then fully into our maxi absorbency in those pants as well. And then I briefly mentioned a new product innovation that we've launched into the market as washable protective boxer shorts. This is something that we've initially launched into the retail market, where they are a physical boxer short, look and feel exactly like boxer shorts, really kind of support from a lighter incontinence need. That's something where we'll probably see the innovation moving through to in the future, as we are looking to be obviously much more sustainable and supporting men with the products that they really need, can give them that discretion.
Thank you so much, Mark. And boys really do need bins. We've definitely learned that tonight, haven't we? But Jonathon, we're getting close to the end of our webinar, but I really do want to ask you, do you have any top tips and strategies that helped you that could be helping or help anybody listening out there?
In terms of incontinence perspective, it's planning, as with everything, because I've been sort of made erectile dysfunctional, that sort of stuff. Nothing is spur of the moment ever again. So you have to sort of take a running jump at something from a great distance. If it's going to the loo, if it's going out, I have to make sure I've got at least another pad with me. I need to know that where I'm going to, I shouldn't have a problem if I were to need to change my pad. I generally sort it out before I go out, because I don't leak a lot anymore, thankfully. It's getting better, but it is that understanding where you go. And by working with my friends at Kemosabe, it was creating an icon which would go into bars, restaurants, clubs, wherever, so that when a man walks in there, you don't have to ask whether they have a loo which has a sanitary bin in it. You know full well that it is there. You don't have to ask. You walk in there and it'll be in each of the cubicles on the cubicle door when you go in. So that takes away some of the embarrassment of all of that. You can't go out drinking, having sessions with friends. So 10 pints is well, it's out of the question anyway nowadays. But you can't drink quantities of anything. You just have to be very mindful of everything you do. Don't do trampolining. You can laugh a lot, and if you do leak a bit, so what? You've got pads with you. But try and lead a normal life. And I think my thing is, don't for God's sake let anything identify you.
Absolutely, and you're a true inspiration of that tonight. Unfortunately, we've got loads more questions, but I do have to bring it to a close. So, Heather, what's your top tip from tonight's webinar? If you had one last message to give us, what would it be?
Yeah, I think it would be to get your patients, get anybody, any men you know, anyone that you love, get everyone to do our online 30-second risk checker, so they can find out about their risk of prostate cancer and what's the next step to take.
Absolutely, thank you, and that's a real message we all need to spread, isn't it? I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much, Heather, Mark, and absolutely Jonathan, for joining us tonight. You know, we really are grateful for listening to your story, and we'll make sure we get those messages of thanks and best wishes to you. Well, to bring it to a close, Essity definitely like to put themselves at the forefront of really gracefully and boldly taking on these challenging topics. And, you know, today is one of the 3 webinars. So we've got 2 more. We've got one on Thursday, Continence Assessment. We've got one on the 26th, looking at dementia in incontinence. So please join us for those. We also do, as Mark said, have lots of educational support for everybody out there. So we've got some PATH bite-sized learning. PATH is our educational concept here at Essity. We've got bite-sized learning. We've got other webinars to watch. So we're really here to really help you on this journey of education around prostate cancer and incontinence generally. We've also got all that information on the Tena products that Mark shared. So for any information, please contact us. Please reach out to us, and the contact is there on the slide. But I have to bring it to a close. It's been a brilliant evening, and thank you so much. And I'd like to close it with our educational video, PATH, Professional Accredited Training for Healthcare Professionals. Come and join us on the journey, and good night.